Yo, mental health in One Piece is a funny conversation. Just amongst the Straw Hats alone, there are plenty of characters that I would consider to be pretty mentally unstable. Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, Brook. Oh my god, Brook. But amongst the villains of One Piece, it's on a whole nother level. The villains of One Piece are, for lack of a better term, crazy as hell. We could bring up Doflamingo and all his issues, or we could talk about how Kaido is literally a depressed alcoholic.
Stop it.
But amongst all these mentally ill pirates, there's one that stands above the rest. Someone who, despite their overwhelming power and influence, has a mental weakness that prevents them from accomplishing anything. Charlotte Linlin, aka Big Mom. Big Mom is one of the most misunderstood and undervalued characters in One Piece. Her many character flaws are, to some people, very annoying and unpleasant to watch. But it's these exact flaws that make her so interesting and make her a great representation for how it feels to deal with someone with intense mental illness, especially someone that you care about like a parent. It's no mistake that a lot of Big Mom's character revolves around parenthood. Her mental afflictions affect the way that she parents and the way that she views people as a whole. But how did we get here? How could this sweet, young, terrifying genetic abnormality become the monster that we see today? Charlotte Linlin's story begins in a strange place. Unlike most One Piece characters, we don't even begin in her hometown. Instead, we are introduced to Little Linlin, or Big Linlin, as her parents are abandoning her. We can only assume that nobody in whatever small town or village that she came from could handle a child of this size and strength. And her parents were likely given an ultimatum of abandon her or be exiled from their home. One Piece parents don't have the best track record. We got a lot of Yasops running around out here, so it's not that surprising that Linlin's parents elected to leave her behind. I have no doubt that this is what instilled Linlin's intense fear of abandonment, but something even more important to her development is exactly where they left her. Linlin's parents decided to leave her off the coast of Elbaf, and setting aside the fact that they left her with barely any food to survive and didn't wait to see if anyone was actually gonna come out there and take her in, this wasn't the worst choice in the world. I mean, you have this kid that's big as hell, way bigger than any human should be. Let's leave her with the giants. They'd be better at dealing with her than anybody else would. It's definitely not the worst place you could have sent her. You could have sent her to live with the Tontatas or something. My god, that would have been a tragedy. Especially because at the time, Elbaf housed the orphanage of Mother Carmel, a diverse orphanage full of kids of all races. And even though we know behind the scenes that Mother Carmel was a piece of shit that was setting all these kids up to be trafficked and become CP agents, I think the effect this orphanage had on Big Mom was mainly positive. Through being around these different types of people, Big Mom gained an appreciation for people's differences and even showed interest in them, albeit in her own weird way. You see, Linlin had an aggression problem. Not on purpose, but because of the large size difference between her and most of the kids. Well, all of the kids. And this made it so that a lot of the kids really didn't want to play with her. Which sounds mean or messed up, but it's actually pretty understandable. Whenever kids would have certain physical traits that Linlin would deem to be unsightly or strange, she had this tendency to try to fix them. Like when one kid has abnormally long arms and Big Mom decides, I'm gonna straighten them out to fix him. But this kid is a part of the long arm tribe. His arms are supposed to be like that. When she's just a kid, you can chalk this up to ignorance and just misplaced intentions, but Big Mom never grows out of this tendency. Even when she learns more about the world, she still makes it her goal to quote-unquote fix people that she deems to be unsightly. Pudding, you would be so cute if you didn't have that third eye. You should just cover it up all the time. That mindset stays with her well into adulthood. In actuality, I don't think she learned the things that you would usually learn from being scolded for these behaviors, largely because Mother Carmel was fine with enabling these behaviors as long as she was able to sell Linlin off later. So this aggression was never properly checked, and honestly, I think this only exacerbated Big Mom's distaste of things she deemed to be not cute, partially from a kind of self-loathing for not fitting in with the other kids. Even if she was being ostracized for an understandable reason, that pain still existed. And while Linlin was still able to make connections to the other orphans, she still exhibited certain behaviors that prevented her from fully integrating, the biggest of which being her hunger pang. In these episodes that have continued to persist into adulthood, Linlin's desire for food will send her into a rage, attacking anything and everything in her path until she is satiated. It's hard to pinpoint exactly where these behaviors come from, if there's some natural behavior Big Mom has always exhibited, or something created by the enabling nature of Mother Carmel. But if in her younger years this behavior seemed more manageable, there is one standout moment that I would say marks the point of no return: the Elbaf incident. In Elbaf, once a year they celebrate the winter solstice in order to pay tribute to the sun god. And in order to pay this tribute, they fast for 2 weeks. Something that Linlin found difficult. On the 7th day, one of Linlin's hunger pains struck. And unlike other times where she was able to be calmed by Mother Carmel, this time Linlin was far too hungry to be calmed, and the object of her desire, Semla, was completely unavailable to anybody. This rampage led to the destruction of an entire Elbaf village, as well as the death of Elbaf elder Yoru. Predictably, this this led to Linlin and the rest of the orphans being exiled from Elbaf, therefore, in my opinion, sealing her fate. After this point, there was absolutely zero chance of Big Mom having anything like a normal or even somewhat enjoyable childhood. The absolute best case scenario from this point forward was that she was bought by the world government and groomed into becoming a Marine. But at the very least, even with all the negatives that came with being raised by Mother Carmel, she at least gave Linlin the perception of being loved. And it's because of this love that Big Mom developed her dream to be like Mother Carmel, but on a much larger scale, bringing in vastly different groups of people under her wing. Even after being kicked out of Elbaf, Linlin and the other orphans still lived peacefully with Mother Carmel until Linlin's 6th birthday. As a testament to just how loved Linlin was around this time, Mother Carmel and the other kids amassed a massive pile of semla, the very dessert that had caused Linlin to rampage all that time ago. It wasn't that long ago at that point, but they put it in front of her and said, all of this is yours, Linlin. Eat as much as you want. And so she did. She ate and ate and ate, eventually entering into another one of her blackout states. And by the time she snapped out of it, the semla, Mother Carmel, and all of the kids were completely gone. Something worth noting is that when Big Mom has these episodes, she has no recollection of her actions. So this means, especially when she was younger, every time one of these events happened, she had no context for it whatsoever. As far as she perceives it, she was abandoned by her parents, then she was kicked out of Elbaf, and abandoned again by Mother Carmel, the very person she thought would never do that. From this point forward, Linlin would develop a more possessive nature over the things she cares about. Instead of a simple desire to interact with a diverse set of people, she now viewed it as owning a diverse set of things. And this development was only accelerated by the influence of Big Mom's next caretaker, if you want to call him that, Streusen. Streusen coming across Big Mom was probably the worst thing that could have possibly happened in this moment. Instead of literally anybody else coming across her and pulling her back into society, she was instead dragged into the underworld. Here she would have to fight to survive, and her overwhelming strength went from being a hindrance to her greatest asset. In this new environment, Linlin was no longer rewarded for making friends or coming to an understanding with someone after a conflict. Instead, she was rewarded for one thing and one thing only: subjugating people through military might. In an environment like this, someone like her could do whatever she wanted. It probably felt liberating for her. She was now able to lean into the very things that she had been told to suppress her entire life. And all of these things would go on to shape how Big Mom acts in her adult life, mainly in her strange familial behaviors. Much like Mother Carmel, Big Mom sought to be a mother figure to all of these different kinds of people. But after years of being neglected and surrounded by crime, that dream had been corrupted. The way that she treats her kids is poisoned by this incessant need to control everything about them. From birth, they are raised to be a part of the Big Mom Pirates and to be useful to Big Mom in any way possible. We see that kids like Katakuri and Brûlé essentially had to raise themselves. Since Big Mom was always off pirating somewhere or another, it fell to the older siblings like Kat to take care of the younger one. Even in cases where Big Mom was more present, like Pudding, her effect was largely negative. Her need to make everything fit into this picturesque vision of the world under her control led to her directly causing many of Pudding's insecurities. The effect that Big Mom's obvious mental illness has had on her kids is almost too much to even state in one video, but it's developed to such a point where her kids are almost raising her in a way. It honestly reminds me of people who have a grandparent with dementia or Alzheimer's or something. Big Mom is constantly stuck in this childlike state, and honestly it feels like she's gotten worse over time. The kids have to have all these different protocols set in place because Big Mom is just that unpredictable and inconsistent. It's not lost on me that in a series like One Piece, where found family is such a big part of it, Big Mom is like the only character that makes it to where all of her children need to be related to her by blood. It just further exemplifies this need for control that she has all the time, and this rejection for anything that she cannot control. Even with all that being said, I still think Big Mom is a good person at heart. Mainly because I just don't even know if she's cognizant enough for me to blame her actions on her 100%. This really stood out to me in Wano. I know everybody hates the amnesia plot, but I thought it gave really good insight into who Big Mom is as a person. I mean, Big Mom is evil, don't get me wrong, but when she loses her memory, it shows you just how innocent her motivations were before she was corrupted. We've seen different characters' upbringings, characters like Luffy or Law. They don't get to where they are without having positive influences to steer them away from the wrong direction. And I feel bad for Big Mom seeing that she never had that. In fact, she had quite the opposite. If Big Mom, instead of a Mother Carmel or a Streusen, had a Shanks or a Corazon or a Belmare in her life, who knows where she could have ended up. But yeah, man, that's all I got for y'all boys today. Let me know what you think about Charlotte, Linlin, Big Mom in the comments below, and comment mother if you made it to the end. Just confuse everybody that didn't make it here. Like the video if you liked the video, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, man, I'm gone.